3, 2, 1, 0.
Welcome everyone to the Live Launch Podcast. I'm here with Blaine, and we have a very special guest today. My older brother Mike. He is the Schwarzenegger to my DeVito. Why don't you say hello?
Well, hello there.
That's sexy. Mike is the creator of Live Launch, my best friend, Nick's brother, and we're going to ask him a few questions today about what got Live Launch started, and we'll see where it goes. We hope you enjoy the show today. That pretty much sums up what we're going to do. I'm going to publicly state, though, that I am my brother's biggest fan, so if I sound like a fanboy geeking out, that's just another day in the wonderful life of being a younger, chubbier brother. All right, so Michael, what life events led you into creating Live Launch and all of the facets of it?
Live Launch was created for my family. The whole idea was that anybody in the family who had kids, I wanted them to see the science of a rocket launch. It is STEM at its pinnacle. So the goal was I found Facebook groups, threw one together. It didn't even have a name because it was basically just for my family. And that way they could get an alert every time there was a space event or a launch. That was about 3 years ago. And I believe it was very close to 0 family members actually utilized the site.
I can confirm that's very true.
And it was good at heart. I wanted it to help inspire those kids. Well, in the process, I did not know people could see that it existed. So every once in a while, I would get a request for access to the site. And in my head, who am I to say no? I can't stop. I don't want to stop someone from seeing something like a rocket launch or a spacewalk. These are wonderful things that happen. And so I just started approving people. And here we are today, as of last week, with 26,000 members strong.
And when was the official launch of the site to, I guess, the open public?
On purpose?
Yes.
It never had a date. The original site was 2017. I think it was sometime around February. It got a name in October of 2019.
Okay, so from October of 2019, let's say to January of 20, what was your number like?
It was, I think we were sitting around 15 to 20,000 because it went from almost none to 1,000 because I ran around like calling my mom. I think I called my brother here and just said, "Holy, there's going to be 1,000 people on this site." I started to get kind of giddy. It was funny to me, but it was nice because it's science and it's fun and other people enjoy it. And then it just started to snowball, just like anything that has a decent amount of members. It grows exponentially,
right.
And just continued to snowball since then.
Well, I think we saw the biggest peak just before the SpaceX launch. Is that correct?
Oh, when Bob and Doug went up, I had to recruit everybody to help me because every time I logged in, there was another 200, 300, 400 people trying to get in, and I tried my darndest to scrub them out because, of course, there's some bots in there and people trying to sell you stuff, and it is complicated to try and keep them out. But when there's 400 in there and you're checking every single profile, it was time to get some help. Friends, family. By the time Bob and Doug got called off on the first day, we had approved 5,500 members.
Rookie numbers.
On top of that, so then it was just scrubbed for a few days later. So that next day comes around, and it was pretty close to 5,500 more. So half of our membership we can thank Bob and Doug for.
I agree. When you asked me to help, I was on my way to Claire to go see my wife's father. And I was like, oh yeah, sure, I got this. And I would approve, let's say 50, maybe 60 people, and then I lose service. 5 minutes later down the interstate, my phone would get like a little hint of service. And it'd be like 353 people are waiting. What? So I'm reading these numbers off, and I'm going through and trying to improve as many as I can. And it's supposed to get smaller. When you refresh, the number is supposed to go down, but it didn't. It continuously went up and up and up, and it was overwhelming. And it wasn't necessarily a bad thing to be overwhelmed by. It was just kind of like, I remember when you called me and told me there were 10,000 members and how excited you were. And we were all like, oh, that's awesome, man, that's great. Kind of thought that was the peak. I didn't expect, what it was going to do.
Well, in 10,000 members, you got to understand where my excitement comes from. It isn't because I have a site with 10,000 members. It's that 10,000 people shared the same passion that I do. Again, I put that up so that people can share in the science of a launch. And when 10,000 people, although a drop in the bucket of the United States or even globally, because we have people from all over the world, that was exciting to me. This is all people who enjoy the same things I do.
It's been pretty cool to watch the numbers go up. I was overwhelmed too when he asked me to help. Unfortunately, with COVID, I was considered essential, so I wasn't staying home and not doing anything. So I kept getting seeing these huge numbers of people requesting access to the site, and I'd be on my lunch break or a 10-minute break at work, and I'd be like, I would just wave it off because I'm not going to be able to approve hardly anybody in 10 minutes. So I'd wait until I got home, but the number never went down. I'd come home and he's got 10 people helping. Why is the number not going down? It was crazy.
The number is not going down because it's like that plant in Little Shop of Horrors. It just wants to be fed, and it's more and more. Like I said, it's a great problem to have. I love that there's so many people that have an interest in this kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's been very cool.
Mike, what does it actually mean to you to see it continue to grow?
It means that in a world right now where education is sometimes on the defense, in that there's people discussing shutting down space programs to save money. It means in those kinds of situations that there's still people out there that find the joy of space. They understand what it is, that there's kids out there who just enjoy the wonderment of seeing a launch. It's important to me because STEM is important to me. That's one of those projects that I do separate from this, which is Children's STEM. And it is essential to a space program that kids understand basic science. So in all, the importance is really for the future. I'm never going to space. I've said this before and several times. They charge by the pound. There's no chance that I'm going to get into space.
What if they offer a buy one, get one free?
Well, and trust me, if there is an opportunity, I'm going to take it. Minimum low Earth orbit. Come on, Virgin Galactic. I need you to bring the prices down because I at least want to see the curvature of the planet myself.
Maybe they give you a discount ride because you're the live launch guy.
Well, that would be fantastic, and I would absolutely accept it. I think that we have to constantly push the envelope when it comes to science. If you look back to the Apollo era, or even before, so much came from the space program, well more than just, hey, we did it, or hey, we beat another country first to stand on the moon. Almost every piece of technology that's in your hospital today
was developed for that,
came from the process it took to get there. NASA gives thousands of patents away to U.S. companies. NASA and the space program is a prop to the U.S. economy.
Not even just NASA in itself, but the idea of space exploration. How many technologies were created based on science fiction, based on seeing things on television shows, and wow, what if we could do that someday?
Well, and it's funny, there's a lot more than you think. Nextel, the creator of Nextel, the reason why it flips and beeps as it does, because it looks like Star Trek equipment, their communicators. The first computer had buttons that didn't work, but they saw it on Star Trek. They knew there was something supposed to be there. There's supposed to be a button, but it didn't work. But they put it there because it's supposed to be there. I'm hoping at least 1 or 2 children who come to live launch and start to find that joy, I hope that they come up with something. I hope that they find a love for science and they start to invent, because they are certainly going to think of more things than I am, and I'm going to reap the benefits from watching the things they do.
Well, the beautiful part about children is they haven't been programmed by society not to think things are possible. So the problem with adults is that most of us, by the time you get to your 20s and your 30s and your 40s, you're pre-programmed with a set of ideals that you don't necessarily push what I'd call your personal boundaries. And that doesn't mean ethically or spiritually. I'm just meaning that you look at something, you think it is the way it is, you never even concern yourself with whether it can be improved or changed. Kids look at things and go, that's stupid. And that may not be the best way to explain, as a human being, the problem with something, but they're right. There's lots of things that can be improved. And so if they keep that mentality, they're going to change a lot of things, and they're going to change things for the better, and they're going to make improvements that we never would have thought possible.
Yeah, I think you've hit something there. They're not limited by their education. They're still curious, which is reason why we use Stay Curious. We want people to continue to dream. As you know, I used to teach kids STEM on the side. on the north end of Flint, which is one of the most underserved areas in the United States. And I would ask kids, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I heard things like fork truck driver, or I'd like to work at this grocery store or that grocery store. I had to reset the expectations and remind them that they could still dream, that this question wasn't limited to anything. And it took time before I could even get them to think outside of the box and pick something that they believed would be out of their reach. And it's not. It never is.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think as a child who was never pushed to do anything myself, I was dead set on being a race car driver as a kid. My dad raced cars when I was a kid. I worked for General Motors, and I thought, well, I'll do the same thing. That was the dream, and I never looked any further than that. And then I got comfortable in my adulthood doing a certain job, and the dreams were over. I had kids, and I was like, well, the dreams are theirs now. So now I'm 45. I don't have any dreams. I don't really have any hobbies. Everything is my wife and my kids, and I wish that I could go back to that, child. I had a lot of dreams, a lot of goals when I was a kid, but how do you achieve them? So the STEM program, I love that because you kind of teach kids about what's possible and how to go about achieving them. I had no idea how to become a race car driver. My dad wasn't interested in making me a race car driver. I didn't know anybody else. I know it costs money. There wasn't anybody else to fund that. So I think it's very important, the work that you're doing with STEM, especially in live launch, giving kids hope for the future.
Well, don't get me wrong. It is important to read. It is important for music, programs. That's why a lot of times when I say STEM, I'm leaving out some important stuff. Usually now they say STEAM because arts belongs in there. And I think that if you have that arts section, you're a better engineer, really, if you have that capability.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, and so the important part is understanding the logic of science. Understanding that if we kind of leave the emotion to the side, it's important for kids to know that there's a process. And that process always leads to an answer. It empowers. So it doesn't matter what they really want to be. They can go through, 5 whys as an example, as an engineering term to find a root cause, or they can look at the scientific method and create a process that gets them where they want to go.
I think when it comes to speaking of children or young people, really anyone, there's a very large disproportionate population here in all of our day-to-day lives of people that had goals and dreams of aspirations. I'm one of them. And then at some point along the way, we decided that it wasn't worth it, or we couldn't do it, or we seen where we wanted to go, but literally no way to get there, or no way to figure out how to get there. And so we gave it up. I'm only saying this because I have had a front row seat to your journey. Well, everything after year 10. And I am a huge advocate of starting over when you decide it's time to start over, because I've watched what you've accomplished. No one would ever know this because he wouldn't really talk about it, but he is not the brother that I grew up with. He's the same person, obviously, but STEM is a relatively not new passion, but realized passion. He was, on a different path and very, very sports ball oriented, as I call it when I'm making fun of people that love that kind of stuff. And then one day he just decided that he wasn't happy. In 10 years or less, he changed everything. And if nothing else, Mike is a perfect example of what you can do when you decide it's time to do it.
Thank you. First of all, those are kind words, and it means a lot to me. It was 100% accidental.
Only you can accidentally succeed.
How do you accidentally get a master's degree?
And yes. The fact of the matter is...
Yeah, let's hear this.
I etch-a-sketched my life at the age of 36. I worked retail for 16 years. It was miserable. I did not enjoy it, but it was good. It was good to the family. And when the market crashed and everything fell around it, so did we. Sometimes you get put in a situation where it can't get worse. So my goal was, I'd been watching PBS, and they said being an engineer was cool. So I thought, what the heck? I think I'm smart. I'll just be an engineer. Where I promptly went to Mott Community College and failed their entrance exam, which is not even a real entrance exam. I just failed to reach college levels, which, can kind of kick you a little bit.
Yeah.
And it motivated me to go to sites like Khan's Academy, which we have on our STEM site on the live launch, and practice. And go back and try again. And it was really the act of fighting to get in to prove to myself. And some of those professors taught me how much I really enjoyed learning. Between that part of the journey and then working with kids in Flint who thought they didn't have an option and showing them an option, that's what drew out the passion. And really, from that point on, it was, okay, I've got my associates. What if I got a bachelor's? U of M let me in. So if you're going to let me in, I might as well try. So I go and get that bachelor's degree, and I start looking, well, I wonder if Eastern would let me in for a master's. They did, and I'm not necessarily sure why, but they did let me in, and now
stunning good looks.
And it's one of those situations that you think that will never end. You know, you're never going to finish it. But here we are. I'm a kid with a GED who went back to school at 36, couldn't get into the community college, and now I have a master's degree, which is another reason why I'm constantly pounding on children to keep fighting. Keep going for it. Keep getting it. You can get it.
That is the best example of what's possible, especially for kids that are in those inner cities that don't really believe that they can do anything outside of their community. I hate to say this, but like some parents are really supportive of dreams. And some parents, they see a mountain and they go, you see that mountain? You can climb that mountain. And some parents go, you see that mountain? Don't you go near that mountain. Stay in the village. And whatever path someone chooses for themselves, and they end up being happy, then who am I to say whether that's right or wrong? It's not going to harm them either way. But you have to know what's possible before you make a decision what you want to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm hoping that maybe someday someone hears this and they don't like their situation and they make that change. We're guaranteed one life that we know of, and the fact is that we need to make the most of it. I'm excited because I've made it through the bucket list. I've written a book on sustainability that will get released. That was a bucket list item.
There goes our next question.
And live launch shows that some people have the same passions that I have, and I get to share it with them. And it's one thing I love about live launch is there's over 50 countries represented. There's engineers from aerospace and just novices who love it, along with kids, and everybody generally gets along. It's one of the few places I can go on Facebook that is sane. And if they're going to argue, it's over which rocket is better, not countries or politics or any of these things that we just don't allow in that site.
Right. Or the other argument I generally see is which one's launching today. Well, it's this one. No, it's not. It's that one.
Which I'll take those arguments all day long. That's just people talking about rocket launch.
Right. And generally, they're usually both right, depending on what countries they're from.
Yeah, and that's another thing. There's 4,000 people from the UK of live launch. One of the largest areas of membership that goes on the website is from Australia. It is becoming a worldwide thing. But guess what? Rocketry is. Science is. Space technology is a unifier. It is one of those things that everybody can come together and everybody can enjoy.
Well, and that was evident in the late 70s, early 80s when the U.S. and Russia started to work together for a common goal. The ISS, like Nick and I talked about last episode, touched on that, where they stopped competing and they just started working together. The International Space Station was created, and they're all under the guise of space and science. They're all working together, and when they're doing that, none of the things on Earth seem to matter. There's none of the political wars. It's just one common goal.
You're completely right. And you made me think of something very stupid, but I have to ask this. You know what Sputnik is, right?
I do.
Okay. And it launched in 1957?
Yes.
Did you hear what Russia named the first vaccine for the coronavirus?
I have not.
Sputnik 5.
That's cute.
I thought so.
So there's some things that people don't always realize about that space race. And it's not just that even through the Cold War we could get along, at least in that area. But and I steal this from Neil deGrasse Tyson. I'm going to go ahead and cite this right now, because then anybody who knows me knows that I listen to a lot of deGrasse Tyson.
Air quotes.
Yes. It not only gave us the appreciation, it showed us heroes, first of all, but it also gave us appreciation for this planet we live on. It was the first time that, and in case anybody's wondering, my wife endures a large photo on our wall at home of Earthrise, my favorite photo.
She is a trooper.
There's a large amount of nerd in that house at times.
Oh, it's not like you're watching TV under a Saturn V or anything.
And that is a Lego Saturn V rocket for the listeners out there. But the thing I like about the Earthrise photo is it was the first time that humanity ever saw a globe with no lines on it. We're always battling over the different lines that you don't cross. Each color is a different country, and our country is better than your country. And it was the very first time that humanity saw Earth as it was, as a whole. And it's funny because space changed the way humans looked at the planet. You had Earth Day. You had Clean Water Acts. All these things just started piling in. These environmental actions started coming after those photos.
Yeah, Arbor Day was one of those too, I believe.
Absolutely. So the space program has done so much for the planet, especially for our country, financially and spiritually, if you will. It grew a whole generation of scientists because not everybody could get on the rocket, but everybody could be around it.
You know, I'm going to interject here, and I agree. One of the things that I've been thinking a lot about, the last, I'd say, 3 weeks, is that my mom, just like your mom, I'm sure Blaine's parents, would remember and tell you stories about watching rockets launch and watching the splashdowns on television. It was nationally syndicated. People reported it. It was big news, and it was part of our culture, our active culture. It was something to go to the coffee shop and talk to people, the next morning, and it was something that we had ingrained in our DNA after decades and decades of doing this and working towards it. But on top of that, to kind of give a different spin on it, when you watch that kind of stuff on television, you're seeing these normal people that have taken the steps to become someone's hero. It's not like watching the NFL or the NBA. It's not that they were born an engineer. They went to school, they got their education, they worked hard, and they got to where they needed to be to accomplish that. That's a realism that most people don't have in the people they look up to, whether it be a superhero or, short of a firefighter or police officer, that's an everyday kind of guy. These are real people. These are things that anyone can actually do. And that is, at least for me, kind of a drop of hope in kind of a dark world right now. Like, to watch the press conferences and all the announcements online go through in the live videos, and to watch Bob and Doug talk, or to watch Elon Musk talk, or to watch the NASA panels they've been doing the last 2 weeks, almost every day. It's like 2 or 3 in the afternoon, they're doing a live press conference. And to watch these people discuss this stuff is a breath of fresh air. I love it. Finally kind of sparks interest in me that I didn't know I had, but also it allows me to understand things from my parents' perspective that they always talked about, but I never got to experience. And that right there is worth $1 million.
I hope this podcast can clear up things over time, too. A lot of times, if we stick to cable news and all these other avenues, Facebook at times, it will tell you part of a story. When they talk about NASA's budget, what they don't say, it's a half penny on a tax dollar. What they say is, this total amount is way too much, we got to get rid of it. Again, remember all the things it brought to this country. Because as of 2015, and I have to stop there because their budget on 16 put it over, but from the birth of NASA to 2015, we gave more money to the banks in the bailout in 2008 than the full NASA budget from creation to 2015, which means NASA created over 2,000 patents. NASA gave those to U.S. companies. Millions, billions of dollars came back to the U.S. market because of things NASA gave them. The fact is we say we're always broke, but we're not. We just redistribute the money in the wrong way.
I think that's true anywhere. Honestly, I keep seeing, just in the state of Michigan, I'll speak to quickly. They keep asking for, last year was, they wanted to raise gas taxes so that they could pay for the roads. Well, the lottery's been in place for years for the roads, and there's already been a gas tax for the roads and so on. They keep asking for more money, and you never see where it goes. Nobody knows where it goes. The roads are never fixed. Some schools get shut down. Some are, funded poorly, and so on. I think that's not it's not unique. It's across the board. It's and I don't know who makes the decisions.
I want to interject for one thing here. I just cut my own brother off who hosts the show, so I apologize about that. Is that we talk about money in Michigan. Well, Michigan is uniquely placed to be a place for aerospace. We have old bases, like in Oscoda,
All over the place.
that are military bases that are capable of becoming launch sites. They're in Marquette. There's an argument and a fight about nature versus having a site. And I will tell you this. if, I always say, I support that site conditionally, no matter where it is in Michigan. If it's in Marquette, where there's more nature involved, or Oscoda, where there's a partial building and structure set, I say conditionally because companies like SpaceX pour a tremendous amount of resources into those areas. Yes, they build a launch facility. Yes, vibrations bother the animals there, and that is something I'm near and dear to. But the amount of money they put into the environment, the roads, and protecting habitats is a huge amount, and it would benefit the state tremendously.
Ignorant person looking in here, the only part of that I think would be not a danger to the environment, but a concern, we've talked about this, is not the building or construction of the launch site, but it would be the development of land for the people that are going to be brought in as, employees of the businesses as this spawns around. But with that being said, if proper planning is done, then there shouldn't be an issue. I personally would fully support that. I think it's a wonderful idea.
Well, and I mean, the fact is that I always say conditionally because there's a respect factor to nature. Again, so for people who don't know, my bachelor's is in energy and sustainable systems. So I do have a background, and the book is about sustainability. So I do understand sprawl is a problem. But if you build it like Google does campuses, if you can get it close to zero net when it comes to energy, and you respect the environment around, it's kind of like, for an example, people get upset about hunters. There is no person more in tune with our forest than a hunter. They generally very much respect the wildlife, the forest itself. It's not like when you go to the beach and you see garbage everywhere. When they're out hunting, you're not going to find a big pile of garbage. These people pay to hunt, and it funds our parks and forest.
You're right, but I'm going to kind of jump off the rails here on this. In regards to hunters, hunters actually serve a very, very good role in our environment because as human beings, as the top predator species, however you want to look at it, we've kind of removed and driven off all natural predators that, we would have in this state. You go in the UP, yeah, there's some cougars, yes, there's some bears, but generally speaking, when you say hunters, 9 times out of 10, every person thinks deer, because this is Michigan. We hunt deer. That's what we do. Deer don't have a natural predator here anymore, other than maybe a minivan on I-75 at 2 in the morning.
Yeah, they're elusive creatures.
So, hunting is a very, very, very useful, I don't want to say industry because it's not hobby, pastime.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that they're not. The goal is so that people realize that sometimes that's how the funding happens. That's how you get national forest, and it's how you get state parks. And the same thing if you bring aerospace into Michigan. Unfortunately, automotive is struggling, and it's going through a change that everyone in automotive is terrified of, moving to electric. And the industry in Michigan is fluctuating all over the place. What they need in this state is an up-and-coming industry, and that is aerospace.
And regarding the proposed facility, that is in Marquette, correct?
Correct.
Is that already partially used or previously used property, or is it a completely new development?
From my understanding, and again, this is limited information, I knew more about the Oscoda opportunity, but the further we go north, the better the launch site is. So the one in Marquette, from my understanding, would be a new build.
Well, we'll try and get some more information on that as it becomes available. And we're going to switch topic now. I've got another question for Mike. Just have you talk a little bit more about the Future Astronaut of the Month Club, how you came up with that idea, and where that's going to go from here.
It's quickly becoming one of my favorite things to do. And the Future Astronaut of the Month Club, for those who haven't seen it yet, is where we collect students or children that have either their families are on live launch or even they're on live launch who have an interest in aerospace. We want to spotlight these kids' passions because it really does help support what they want to do later. So what we do is we put up a poll, sometimes driven by families, gathering family members for votes, but the whole idea is that every student will win at some point. You can't win twice, and we'll run out of kids at some point. So They run a poll and they get a gift pack. You guys interview them on the show, which from my understanding is one of the highlights. They just absolutely love that. It is probably my favorite program I've ever been a part of.
It's actually been a little... I was a little nervous when you said you were doing a Future Astronaut of the Month and they were going to be like all under 12. And I'm like, I don't know how to relate to little kids at all. Like my sons are now 14 and 19, and I'm finally like, oh, they're finally getting almost to adulthood. I can have regular conversations with them. Nick and I, when we first started the podcast, we had concerns about our language, honestly, because in our everyday lives,
the struggle is real.
There's a lot of profanity, to be honest. I don't believe that we've ever caught ourselves using one profane word.
He did just.
I did today in this recording.
Shame on you.
I know. I'm a terrible individual.
He's extra comfortable around me.
The magic of editing.
So that was a funny line. You better put a bleep in there. Don't take it out.
But yeah, I was really nervous about the first interview, but our first Future Astronaut was really cool. It made me relax a lot. Our second winner, even more of a pleasure to talk to, and from the Space Coast. It doesn't get any better than that. If you're not a space fan, if you're not a kid and a space fan living on the Space Coast, I don't know what else we could possibly do to pique your interest in space and rocketry.
What a waste of a childhood. Could you imagine that?
It would be magic to me. If I was speaking to Brenna, who you just interviewed, the question I would have asked is, do you know how lucky you are to stand in your driveway and watch a rocket launch? Because for me, again, I'm gonna tell everybody on here, I am the founder of Live Launch. I've never seen a live rocket launch.
That's very sad.
Well, that will change at some point, obviously.
I hope so. None of us have seen a live rocket launch.
Right.
I can honestly say that the day we do, it's going to be like tailgating instead of a football game. It'll be a bunch of us in the back of a truck or something, just staring up with green koozies and big old wide bushy eyes, just waiting for it to get. It's just okay. So I'm a big guy. I mentioned that before. I don't generally leave the Earth for any distance without mechanical assistance. And so the notion of something so big and so powerful that it's going straight up, it just boggles my mind. You talk about pure wonder. It is one of the coolest concepts. Standing on a warship or being on a train. I know how much Mike loves coal, but the concept of big, powerful machines, kind of gets my attention. So when you think about the rockets and how large they are, how much they weigh, and the amount of thrust it takes to put that payload up in space is just it's almost like reading a comic book, but I get to sit there and watch it.
Before we get too far out here, I'm going to tell you right now, get used to kids. Our goal is to support as many as possible. And yes, the Future Astronaut of the Month Club is up, running, and hopefully we'll continue this on until we run out of children. But at some point...
That's dark.
Well, not like that. But if the Patreon takes off, if the donations continue to come in, we've had actually a surprising amount come in. I would like to start doing even small scholarships for some of these kids as they get older and they start getting accepted to college, because I got to tell you, it's expensive. And even if it's just $500 or $1,000 for that first year, at least that's your books.
That's something, yeah.
And that's why we're trying to build these programs. Whatever we can do to help the future of aerospace, so the rest of us can live it and enjoy it. Because, I had family members who were like, we were on the moon in 1969, we're going to be on Mars in the mid-'70s. But we went backwards. We worried about spy satellites instead of moving on. Right now, we're in a unique place where there is an exceptionally rich visionary who is going to take us to Mars no matter what happens. He refuses to allow SpaceX, which is profitable, to go public until they're on Mars.
I love Tony Stark. I met Elon Musk.
So we live in a time where aerospace is going to happen if they like it or not. The government can be worried about small. They can think small. They can worry about here locally. Private is going to move beyond it. The moon will be a gas station. Mars will be a colony. And then you're going to see Venus's, you'll have a colony floating on the atmosphere of Venus, because actually that might even be easier than Mars. We're going to move beyond this.
I'm excited to see all of that.
I'm not going to see any of it because it's not going to happen in our lifetime, but I hope it does.
I think Mars will.
The simple fact is if we support it, it will. It doesn't take humanity long once they unify. If we quit bickering individually, if we quit saying the people on that side of the line are not as good as the people on this side of the line, and we start working together, we can accomplish a tremendous... They landed on the moon in 1969. The bottom of that craft was cellophane.
Did you catch in the interview we did with Paul where he talked about Buzz holding a breaker together with a pencil?
Yeah, well, before they left, the head of NASA told their wives, I think we've got a good shot. It's at least 50-50.
Right.
They landed on the moon with computing power that only rivals a 1970s or 80s digital watch. If we took the time and resources, if you gave NASA 1 penny on the dollar, we're going to get real crazy, and we are going to give them 1 penny. The military gets 50 cents of every tax dollar that comes in. Let's give NASA 1 penny. You will be there. Not only in your lifetime, you will see it, but you will see the moon. You will see internet high speed going from place to place, so no longer a 30-minute wait when you tell the rover to turn left and hope it didn't fall in a ditch. You will have all that technology. We will be able to do amazing things. And just think about what your kids will see.
And that's what's unique about this opportunity, because I've gotten to a point in my life at 45 where I really didn't think about all that stuff. I just take everything for what it is. Like, my smartphone does what it does, and that's it. I'm not concerned about the future capabilities of it. This is part of the reason I signed up to do this, is to learn. And I hope everybody listening is doing the same, taking that opportunity. We're trying to provide information here, just curiosities, things that might pop in your head from time to time. Hopefully you'll come back and listen and get some answers. That's what I'm doing. I get to talk and provide the answers.
Well, if we can keep Nick from swearing, kids could listen to this broadcast also.
Yeah. Like I said, the struggle is real. I'm trying. Rome was not built in a day, and neither was my vocabulary. So I will say that I agree, but we aren't all learning. But one of the things I hope to establish with this is that there's different kinds of learning you can do. The hardest kind is to unlearn the bad things. If we do nothing else here, I hope that someone in the future learns how to hope and learns how to look to the future and say that is possible, because there are so many instances where things look grim and things look dull or boring, or maybe you're at a dead-end job, or maybe you just absolutely despise your college options. Not mean that's going to be the rest of your life, because the future is up and it's all around us, and we just have to live off and go there.
I mean, we get to choose it. The fact is that, just like you alluded to earlier, I did not take advantage very well of the start of my life. I had no real dreams. I was inspired much, much later in life, which I thank Neil deGrasse Tyson. I can't thank Carl Sagan, but he was a big part of that too. Bill Nye, the science guy, raised most of us. That's why he's mad about climate change. He raised us to know better.
I absolutely love that video, by the way, where he blowtorches the globe. It's amazing.
Well, we're visual learners, so he understands that.
Got my attention.
Yeah, so Hank and John Green, if you want to talk about YouTube personalities, these are people who helped me find that love. That when coupled with helping kids see it, it's better than any sport that I ever played. I get more excited to watch a kid build a tower that falls down so that we can discuss what happened than I do a touchdown or a three-point shot in any sport. It is an amazing feeling. Learning moves us forward. And you talk about it's hard to unlearn. Well, if I can give anybody advice, if you want to unlearn bad habits, travel. Go somewhere where you are not important, that no one even notices you. Go visit other cultures. Leave your county, leave your state, leave your country. Because people are people no matter where you go, and nothing helps you understand that like being on their turf.
Wise words for a wise man.
I'll take that.
It's true. Honestly, one of the other reasons I agreed to do this, because I've never liked the sound of my voice. I was kind of scared, nervous about the opportunity, but Mike asked me to do this. Nick asked me to do this.
I told you were doing this.
Yeah,
I love the sound of his voice.
and Nick's bigger than me, so I couldn't say no.
It's a perk.
As Nick stated earlier, Mike has been an inspiration to him and to myself. I'm right now considering, because of what Mike has accomplished later in life, I am now considering a career change, and I appreciate his advice, his knowledge of the industries, his constant learning, and it's just time to make a decision to do it at this point. I'm just going to thank him outright. Thank you again for being a good friend, mentor, and an inspiration. And we really appreciate your time coming and talking to us, and I hope the listeners do as well. I hope they've learned a lot from you today, and I hope we'll have you back, and I hope calling out Neil deGrasse Tyson finally, that this has to reach you, Neil. We want to talk to you.
Well, I've gotten close to him before, and I don't mean like close to a felony. I mean that when he spoke at Kent State University before the first Cosmos was released, a friend of mine and I got like 7th row center. We almost camped out for a science event, and there were still people there before us. Coolest thing. The guy's a rock star. I just kept looking over going, he's right there. He's right there. He's right there. So, hey, if you hear this, thank you, Neil deGrasse Tyson, Bill Nye, Hank and John Green. These people are inspiring every day. Our goal is, at Live Launch, maybe we can just do a drop of what some of these people... I appreciate I never know what to say because I didn't even make my own choices, really. I just kept today only. I got to worry about today. But I appreciate the things that you guys say, and I hope that translates into inspiring someone else. Anytime someone says, what can I do? What can I do? The answer is something for someone else.
Yeah, absolutely. It always feels good to serve someone else versus your own selfish wants. I do want to clarify one thing that I didn't really touch on. When I said that he completely changed his life and he alluded that he was into sales, make no mistake, it wasn't like his life wasn't working out and his job was a dead-end job. Mike made a good living in sales. Paid for a house, his family, he made a good living. So for him to decide to Etch-a-Sketch his life, it cost a lot more than what he's just now reaping the benefits of. He went through a lot of hardship. He supported a household on eBay alone for a hot minute.
Well, and student loans. There were student loans involved and part-time jobs. But, STEMnetics is one of the things that you guys see online on there, and that's where I helped teach kids STEM, and that was one of the few jobs they would even let me have because I was an old college student.
You're right, Taxman. Let's talk about your part-time jobs.
Part-time jobs, all kinds of them, just to get through college because no one wants the older guy who can't work full-time, and I really enjoyed my time at the university. It wasn't just I needed to get this done, which I did, but I really enjoyed the conversations. I enjoyed the people around me. I made great friends with people at the university. So it was challenging, but I got a lot out of it too.
Well, and I think it was just your general competitive nature from your sports background that just kept you going. I feel like your sports background, probably like your entrance exam, and you failed, you're like, that's unacceptable.
He's always had a problem being told no.
Yeah, you get back up and do it again. Yeah.
Well, and it wasn't... Yes, the sports stuff helped because you learn to do for others sometimes in sports. But I had 2 little kids watching me. It wasn't necessarily just for me. I want my kids to know it doesn't matter what happens. You can always do right. And, at Mott, I was probably at sometimes twice the age of some of the students, and they would go, why are you coming here and doing this at this age? And I asked, well, what do you mean? Well, you're, old. Will I be younger if I don't? And they just look at me odd, and I say, tell you what, I believe I'm going to age either way. I might as well have the paperwork.
Right. It's a good way to look at it.
It is a good way to look at it. Justify some of those gray hairs you have, old man.
I have a couple.
Yeah,
pretend I don't.
Yeah, less than I do.
Yeah, and I've tried to be that inspiration for my kids. I'll be honest, I haven't been truly happy in the job that I'm at currently for several years, but...
Hope they're not listening to the podcast.
No, there's no chance of that. No, my employer would never do such a thing, and I don't think any of my coworkers would either, quite frankly.
We do love Corvettes.
Just in case. But in any case, I have plugged away at that job for several years now out of a responsibility to my wife and kids. And now I have my eldest son is 19. He's employed full time. My wife has a really good job. I can start, and her job is providing some tuition assistance to go back to school, whether it's for herself or spouse or children. And I am going to fully take advantage of that. That program starts for fall, winter 2020. I don't know if I'll take advantage of that this
We don't know
period
if there's going to be classes for that.
Yeah, COVID is so weird in Michigan. I don't know how that's going to work, but I am looking at the program list. I am serious about just finding something for me, finally. I've been doing everything for so many years for others, and that's very important. I'm not going to say that I'm disappointed in that aspect of it. My kids have learned to be respectful. They are charitable. They're very nice. Everybody that has ever come across them says that they're very good kids, well behaved, well spoken, and so on. I take that as a win. You told me that that's how my kids were going to be when I was late 20s when I started. I didn't know that's not going to be my kids, but they turned out great. But it takes a team. I've got good friends, good family. My wife has been amazing, and now Nick and Mike to help as well, inspire me. And I don't think for anybody else, honestly, Nick, and to say this to you, I probably wouldn't talk on a microphone for anybody else.
Intimidation is a powerful tool.
So thanks again to you both for getting me out of my comfort zone. It's time to dream again, and this is the place to do it.
Well, there's no such thing as stuck, and that's if I can get any point.
Because there's pictures of you in a submarine.
Yes, my loving wife has a video collection of Mike squeezes through it.
Notice I'm sitting in the chair without arms.
Right.
We can switch, and I'll prove you wrong.
Yeah, we can negotiate that.
I guess I should rephrase that. There's no such thing as being stuck at where you're at in your life.
Right.
That is a mental block. That is a fear. And yes, it was a mental block for me, and I was terrified. I was terrified of failing. There was times that I thought I was going to wash out at U of M, and I was going to have this huge amount of debt with no degree. We don't know until we try it. And I tell people, just do one semester. Take one class. These are the things that are going to make us better in the long run. It's going to help our family and kids. Just take one. If you want it, try it. Because no one wants a what if.
Right. Absolutely agreed. And I'm going to, again, take that first step, start dreaming again, doing things for myself. And I will thank you again for your time. Hope everybody enjoyed the show. Nick, do we have anything else for Mike tonight?
No, I don't think there's anything else that's going to be relevant. I can talk all night long, and to be honest, him and I talk every day from about 9 o'clock until 1. So it's not like I'm not going to have more chances to say anything that pops in my mind. I think that's about it.
Well, I would like to remind everybody, first of all, thank you for everybody being a part of Live Launch. There's no way we could do what we do without the members, and it is amazing. I love the fact that we can all share this joy together. I want to make sure I put that thank you out there. Number 2, if you want to help support, go to the site. Can't say it enough. I'm an engineer by trade right now, and we don't use any of that funding for anything other than Live Launch. We want to continue to build those programs. So for those of you who are already part of the Patreon, thank you. For those of you who've contacted me individually or bought T-shirts, hey, wear your T-shirts to a launch. That would, take a picture for me. I think that would be absolutely fantastic. Goes good with all those videos and photos that we get on the site.
Oh, for sure. That would be amazing.
Those things make my day.
And we now have bumper stickers.
We do. And that's pretty much how I'd like to end this. I want everybody, if they can, just to stay curious. Pass that on to your children. It is one of the best gifts that you can give.
Very well said, and we appreciate it again. Staying curious is very important. I hope everybody out there does that, and we thank you for listening again. And Nick, we'll let you close it out.
Well, I think you kind of said it better than anyone, but the only thing you forgot to say is if you're going to watch Rockets, watch it live launch. Stay curious, everybody.